the memory I want to have of him, of his short life, is a positive one. I almost felt a sense of duty to take the lead on some kind of initiative that would allow Danya's memory and legacy within the chess community to live on beyond his physical life. The lofty goal of $4 million, which might seem jarring to people, is because of its endowment nature. So basically something that is supposed to last for a very long time. Really, I'd like to see something last the length of time that his average natural life could and should have been.
This is going to be a different stream, different content than what I normally do. This is going to be more of a kind of podcast style interview with Peter Giannatos of the Charlotte Chess Center. And I imagine maybe a lot of people who watch my content may not know who Peter is, or may not be so familiar with his role in Charlotte and in the chess world and how he knew Danya. So we're going to start with that, just to give some introduction, broader context. This means a lot to both of us. Peter reached out a few days ago, just looking for, I guess, a larger platform to share more information, raise awareness about the fund. And yeah, it means a lot to me too. Danya was one of the creators, streamers, also a good friend who I really looked up to. I think out of so many like chess content creators, he was one of the people I could relate most to. And I think we had probably some of the biggest overlap, like mutual overlap of viewership on YouTube. So that's another reason why I think it's good to host a Q&A like this on this channel. I know a lot of my audience watch Danya religiously. So the fund that's being put together is, I think, a great way to honor his legacy. And Peter will be sharing a lot more details. I also want to note that like this is very new for me. I'm not used to being the interviewer, so I'm going to do my best. I have some questions prepared. Some people emailed me questions. I did have a post on YouTube and X, so some questions came from there as well. Yeah, we'll definitely address like the kind of the finances behind the fund and why there's a $4 million goal. This might be a new or different concept for a lot of people, but it's a concept of an endowment that you do an initial fundraiser to raise a lot so then it can be invested over time and be more sustainable. And that's really the goal here. Peter will be a lot more eloquent with the way he explains it, and will also probably share a lot more in terms of just the philosophy and the goals given their resources. And yeah, Peter's goal is to be transparent, to clarify. Another thing I'll say is this will probably end up being a separate standalone YouTube video. So once this is done, or once the live stream is done, I think we're going to work on just posting a more polished edit of the interview. So if you're watching on YouTube in the future, thanks for watching. For anyone that has questions that are not answered, I think Peter has been very open in responding to people. So I believe there is a contact page on the fundraiser itself. But I'll ask him towards the end too. Let me make a note of this. That just the best way to get in touch if people have additional questions. Another thing I'll say, I've done my best to turn off all ads. Sometimes YouTube still runs ads even if you turn them off, but it should be very minimal. Okay, Peter's joining. Welcome, Peter. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Eric, for having me on and giving me an opportunity to speak on your channel and to the fans.
Yeah, really appreciate you, and especially taking your time with the U.S. Masters going on. I know it's a very busy weekend. I was just doing some kind of quick introduction on my own to kind of give some background, and we were chatting last night too, and I think there might be a lot of people who watch chess online, who are big parts of the community, who watch Danya a lot, who may not know who you are and what role you've played in Charlotte and your relationship with Danya. So maybe we can start with that as just introduction, your background, and then later talk about the fund.
Sure. Yeah. So I would say just my own personal background is that I founded the Charlotte Chess Center in 2014, and we've been primarily doing chess in the Charlotte region and occasionally some international events, and like the U.S. Masters, which is ongoing downstairs from where I am right now. And we've been doing that for over a decade, and I've been leading that as the founder and director for almost 12 years now. So a full-time commitment for me, and as a chess player myself, I have been fully committed to my work in chess for over a decade. My relationship to Danya is more on the level of friends, because we were friends before anything else. And when he made the decision not to continue his master's degree at Stanford and pursue chess as a career, for him it was a natural fit to move to Charlotte, where we had built already quite a chess community that he wanted to be a part of, and that he knew it would the chess community at large would respect chess professionals who chose to do chess as a career. And of course, he had a peer group here already. So again, I know there's a lot of, even for those who knew that Danya was in Charlotte and let's say affiliated with the Chess Center, he was never a full-time salaried employee. It was his local club. He chose to be a part of it. It wasn't something that he was forced to do or anything like that. He just was a part of our Charlotte chess community. But again, the biggest thing was that Danya and I were friends before anything. And I'm hesitant to really call us colleagues, because we never had that type of relationship where, let's say, I was the boss or he was the employee or anything like that. We were just friends, and he would participate in the ways that he enjoyed, in the ways that he wanted to, but he was always, of course, a member of our Charlotte chess community. So that's our personal background. So a long friendship, and of course, to fans and to our community, he was an esteemed grandmaster who lived in the city and enriched the local juniors with lessons, and then of course would always show up and play the Blitz tournaments, which was his thing. But he moved here in late 2019, and was here until his death. So had been here since then.
Mm-hmm. And I know there's a lot of directions we can go with talking about how you knew Danya in recent times, and I don't think we want to go into too much detail of the kind of nature surrounding his death, but just given that you were very close to him, and the fact that now we're kind of focused on raising money for this fund. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the philosophy with setting up the fund, and kind of just an overview to give people a sense, especially those who may not be aware? I see Hikaru just sent in his audience on Twitch, so there might be a lot of people who are not so familiar with kind of the big picture.
Yeah, greatly appreciated that Hikaru, sent his followers here as well. So obviously for me, and for the chess community at large, and for his family, losing him was a huge tragedy. At the time that it happened, I was unprepared for something like this, and so it's been tough on everybody. And I would say for the first week post his death, I couldn't really think of much other than memories, and then of course doing things like working with the family to help them in any way I could, because I'm like the boots on the ground here in Charlotte, and they don't live here. They live literally across the country on the other coast. But after that first week of grieving for me, I started to think, okay, this was our dear friend. Again, hesitant to even call him a colleague, somebody that enriched our city, enriched the chess community. And I almost felt a sense of duty to take the lead on some kind of initiative that would allow Danya's memory and legacy within the chess community to live on beyond his physical life. And so, of course, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what is it that we could do that could have a impact on the chess community now, but also 5 years from now and 10 years from now? And really, I'd like to see something last the length of time that his, let's say, average natural life could and should have been. And that's easily another 40 years of enriching the community, inspiring people. And so I started to think of what can I do, and what can I do to facilitate that? Because of course I cannot do it alone, and that's why we're here, and I'm greatly appreciative of that, and that's why we want the chess community as a whole to be involved. And so we came up with a memorial fund initiative, which of course I would never have even spoken about or put out in the public sphere without the support of family, on how we can allow his name and legacy to live on beyond this period of time, well beyond this period of time. And that's how this initiative kind of spawned. Keep in mind, it's all happening relatively quickly. We're just talking about approximately a month, a little over a month since his passing. So everything is developing very quickly, but one of the things that we wanted to do is ensure that he is not forgotten by the chess community as a whole, and really by the world, because of course he will never be forgotten by those who knew him personally, his friends, his family, and those that communicated with him regularly. The chess community at large really lost an incredible figure, and we don't want his legacy to just evaporate with time.
And would you be willing to talk about, because I listened to some other interviews, I want to mention your interview on Perpetual Chess Podcast with Ben Johnson, and it sounded like in maybe recent months you had conversations with Danya about his legacy specifically. So would you be willing to share just a little bit about what you talked with him about, and then how it relates to this fund?
Yeah, unfortunately, we had actually talked about his legacy. It was something that always kind of was lingering in his mind, like how does the chess community perceive him? Because as you know, over the last period of time, I'm losing track of time, maybe 2 years or so, there was kind of this negative environment around accusations and questioning of his integrity, which really weighed him down. And he was always empowered by his own play and chess and his fans and his contributions to the chess community, like his commentary. He was always empowered by that. But when his integrity was called into question, it really made him question everything, not just his own play, but how people perceived him at large, not just a select minority group of people. And it always lingered in the back of his mind. But even as recently as the Friday before his death, when he had the stream that people know as the last stream, where he kind of had this like odd behavior, and I went over to his home late that evening with Alexander Bortnik to check in on him. And when the stream stopped, of course I stayed with him. Sasha and I stayed together for about 2 hours after the stream, allowing him to vent, allowing him to talk to us about various things. Sasha eventually went home, and I stayed with Danya another hour or so, maybe even a little more, and we discussed a lot of things, family things, chess things. But one of the things that I remember vividly and that stuck out to me, and we spent quite a long time on, was his perception of how he was seen in the chess world, and what his legacy and contributions to the chess world really were. And we had a discussion about that, and one of the things that I expressed to him was that the impact that he had on the chess community as a whole through content creation, whether it was his Twitch streams or his speedruns that he would upload to YouTube, or his contributions as a player or commentator, adding all of that up together far exceeded almost everybody in chess. I mean, in the large scheme of things. Of course, there are players and personalities in chess that may have more reach than Danya did, but in the large scheme of things, he was on the top of the list of people that had a great impact on the chess community as a whole, not only on themselves as players, but as people who enriched the community. And I expressed that to him because he was feeling down about his place in the chess world. And I was truthful in that that's what I believed. I believe that his impact was greater than the vast majority of chess players will ever have in their chess playing careers. And the fact that he branched out into all these areas really had a greater impact on the game. And when I told him that, because I was basically saying, hey, your legacy is at 29 years old, is really already, your impact is already greater than a lot of the same people who are scrutinizing you and putting you under this pressure. And you still have the world ahead of you, to continue to do that. And like I mentioned on Perpetual Chess, the part that hurts me and the part that hurt me at the time was that when I said that, he asked me if I actually believed that. And I almost took offense to it because, of course, that's what I believed. I wouldn't have said it if I didn't believe it. And that's fundamentally what I do believe. And I wanted him to know that. And I think that those watching now and the supporters of him can come to reality, to the grips of reality, that that's also just true. His impact exceeded that of those who only play chess, even at a high level. And so because that meant so much to him, and his reputation within the chess world meant so much to him, later, after his death and after I had some time to myself, although not much time to myself, I thought, what can we do to allow that to continue to shine? And as I've openly discussed in writing, the biggest motivation I have is for Danya's name and legacy to live on in a positive light. I don't want it to be associated with the negativity surrounding the scrutiny that he was put under for really no reason. And I don't really want to focus our energy there because I don't think that will lead us anywhere. And I don't think it will do a service to the chess community if we did that. So our emphasis on his legacy is indeed that, and not one of vengeance or vendetta. So the initiatives that we've come up with, and I'm happy to discuss them specifically, are around building a legacy for him and initiatives that will have a positive impact on the chess community now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and so on.
Yeah, I think all of that is really important. I think you explain things really eloquently, and it's a difficult topic with just a lot of different areas to address. But I definitely align on focusing on the positives and moving forward in the positive light and honoring Danya in the best way possible, and something that he would be proud of too. Perhaps we can discuss more of the details behind the fund itself, because it seems like there's two components between the fellowship and the annual tournament. But there was a question that I was emailed yesterday that maybe we can start with. It's really about how the initiatives in the fund will reflect and preserve Danya's legacy in a meaningful and lasting way. In other words, what aspects of Danya's values, contributions, or vision of the chess world are guiding the design and goals of the projects the fund will support?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because we came up with initiatives that we believed represented Danya's values. Of course, there are many things that we could do within chess, but we wanted those things to be in line with the things that he valued. So if he came back to us tomorrow and saw what we were doing, that he would be happy to partake in those and put his name on those. And as a friend of his, and when we would get together, we'd talk politics and we'd talk history and we'd talk things, but we mostly talked about chess and the chess world. So I had a really good idea of his passions and things that he really enjoyed. And I imagine that the chess community at large who followed him also probably understood that he had certain passions more than others. So one of those things which I think is probably clearer to the audience is that he loved fast chess. So it didn't necessarily matter whether it was 30-second chess or 1-minute chess or 3-minute chess, 5-minute chess, whatever. He preferred faster time control chess. And he played that online day in and day out almost. But one of the things we always talked about was his desire and wish that there were more over the board blitz and rapid tournaments that were at a higher level, that would attract the strongest players. Because we have the World Blitz and Rapid Championship, that's a once a year event, but on a regular basis here, at least here in the United States, there aren't big Blitz and Rapid tournaments that are, let's say, at the elite level where they're also open to grandmasters like Danya. You know, there are Blitz and Rapid invitationals in the Grand Chess Tour and in some other places, but not really open to a wider group of players. And he asked me and he asked Grant, my colleague, what could we do to have such a Blitz and Rapid tournament that he could participate in? But, you know, of course, it's very difficult to put on elite level events without outside sponsorship and funds. So we had Blitz and Rapid tournaments at the club level, which he participated in by his own will. We didn't poke him to play in them. He did them because he loved to play. But he really wished that there were higher caliber events that he could play in. So the Memorial Tournament reflects his values, at least the type of chess that he enjoyed the most. So that one to me was the easiest initiative because it truly represented his interests. And I'm sure there will be other questions about the details of this event, but one of the things we want to do is, again, if Danya was still with us, would he have the ability to play in this event? And the answer is yes. And we want to make this event more open to amateurs and professionals alike. So like open tournaments in the US that have sections based on levels, we do foresee that happening at the Memorial event as well, where there's kind of a higher level section, if you will, actually similar to our Masters event this weekend, where we have a Masters group, which is for those who are chess masters and up all the way through 2,700 Grand Masters. And then we have amateur sections at the bottom. So it's really a festival here. We have almost 700 players. We would be looking to do something similar to that, where amateurs and professionals alike come in to play the event. They may be separated by sections, but everybody's present and in the same place, honoring Danya's memory, playing the type of chess that he would have enjoyed himself. And I hope we can also factor in the creator side as well, of which he was one, and allow, you know, those members who cannot physically attend this tournament to be able to follow and enjoy the tournament from home as well. So the Blitz and Rapid Memorial for me was, it was the first thing I thought of because it represented his interests so well. So that's the one part of the fund that we're raising for. The other part, the fellowship, which is going to be designed to support high achieving chess students, junior players who are shooting for the stars in terms of their chess careers. This one took into account a lot of private discussions that I had with Danya and some actually initiatives that we were already doing here in Charlotte at a more local level. This would be, of course, a national fellowship and something that would be open to everybody in the United States. And the idea of doing a fellowship came about because Danya and I often talked about the lack of resources that American junior players have if they wanted to be chess professionals. So in other words, really talented junior players, at least in the United States, often move away from chess and kind of pursue a traditional path, which quite frankly, Danya did himself, because he was a very talented young player and remained a talented player, but then decided to go and achieve a 4-year degree at Stanford and kind of put his own chess on the back burner. And part of that was to pursue a traditional balanced path, but the other part of that was that the light at the end of the tunnel seems so far away. And it seems like that for a lot of our junior players in the United States now. So a fellowship which would encourage our most talented players to continue to pursue chess and remain within our chess world seemed to be a natural fit. In fact, Danya himself was a recipient of the Samford Fellowship, which is a fellowship that has existed in U.S. chess for quite some time. And he was the recipient, he was the only recipient in the year that he got it. And he indeed used that fellowship to travel and play in tournaments in Europe, ultimately becoming a GM from that subsidy. And that is really a great program that still exists. And an additional fellowship would enable our community to have access to even more resources. Why that matters and why that reflects his values is that he really valued those chess players who committed their life to the game. Obviously there are a lot of chess players, including myself, that are masters but amateurs, right? So we have not committed, let's say, I haven't committed, let's say, my whole life to playing the game of chess. I didn't start at a very young age, but Danya did, and he became a strong grandmaster, and it was very much a part of his DNA. It was very much a part of his life. So he really valued those who pursued chess as their number one priority. Like, hey, this is the top of my list. Chess is number one for me. And supporting this type of fellowship that students and youth with that same level of interest in chess have access to continue to pursue their dreams and goals within chess absolutely reflected his values and where they lie within the chess community. I'll just tell you a story of something we did locally on the ground here. This fellowship wouldn't impact this program at all. It's just something that Danya and I worked on together on the ground. And, when we came back from the pandemic, we had this idea together. It was just Danya and I. We were the strongest titled players in Charlotte at that time. Now we have 3 grandmasters living in the city, so the bar has really raised, and Danya contributed a lot to that by being here. But when we got together to discuss a program which is called the Elite Chess Team, and it still exists to this day, we took an alternative view to the way things are done in most places, where when our students got to a certain higher level, in the case of the Elite Chess Team here in Charlotte, it's 1,500, we subsidize the training for the students. Whereas in most places, it's the opposite. As you get stronger, your costs increase because the access to specialized training, certain tournaments, things like that actually increases because they're harder to find. It's harder to find those resources. We wanted the opposite to be true because we wanted to encourage students to shoot for the stars, to shoot for those higher levels. So Danya and I got together and we decided that we would subsidize training for students that reached 1,500. And instead of them paying more, they would actually pay half the price of what the lower level students were paying to be in the classes. And that was an effort to encourage students to shoot for the higher levels. So we first started with about 20 kids, and Danya and I just taught the classes ourselves, split the kids up, and we would teach them. And that was great. And now, fast forward to today, we have over 80 students on the Elite Chess Team, all who've reached 1,500, many who have become expert and master level players. And it was just a small thing we could do here on the ground in Charlotte to give students something to work toward, give them that light at the end of the tunnel where it's like, oh, if you reach the 1,500 rating level, which is very achievable, it's not the same thing as like 2,600 to 2,700. It's like a whole different sphere. By setting a standard and an achievable thing, it actually motivates and encourages students to shoot for that. And as a consequence, the amount of strong junior players that are coming out of Charlotte because of this subsidized training program is really incredible. And I think that the fellowship reflects the sentiment, but on a national level that could, let's say, propel students that are top junior players to being top players in the world by providing them with subsidies similar to what India is doing for their population right now, and it's clearly working, and it's clearly motivating their player base. So I hope that gives some insight on how these initiatives spawn and how they go beyond the surface. If you multiply that year over year, where you have this fellowship in the works now for 5 years or 10 years, if it's possible to try to see the future, what type of impact that can have over time, similar to the trajectory of, let's say, the elite team, how it quadrupled in 4 years because people had now something to shoot for and something to look for, something to motivate them to reach the higher levels. So I hope that there's some parallel to be drawn there. This initiative would just be on a much higher level, and it would affect US chess as a whole and the juniors that would be impacted in the nation versus just a concentrated effort here in Charlotte on the ground. Because quite frankly, we believe that an international memorial event and a national fellowship represents Danya's true impact on the world of chess. It wasn't just Charlotte-based impact. He had an impact on the chess world as a whole. So we feel like that better represents who he was.
For sure. And both initiatives sound incredible and sound like they're being done with the right philosophy and intentions. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on like how, maybe we can start with the fellowship and then talk about the tournament too, but how selection process would work and how it's structured to ensure that there's transparency and how exactly the funds are allocated to pay out annual fellowships to talented juniors year after year.
Yeah, so we're very early in this process. As you know, the fundraiser has just recently come about. So the exact criteria for the fellowship has not been determined yet, because one of the things we need to know is how large is it going to be? And that's definitely determined by the amount that we're able to raise. And if the amount is small, would it go to one particular individual? If the amount is larger, could it possibly go to 5 or 10 individuals? It just kind of depends where we end up. And we will have a selection committee, and we will meet with our nonprofit compliance officers to make sure that whatever fellowship requirements are there for, like, whatever application requirements are fair and equitable across the board, so that people know what the standards are and that the decision-making process there is non-biased. So the exact details of that will have to be worked out as we get closer to actually launching the fellowship. But we do not know where we're going to end up with the endowment. So it's hard for us to plan the exact details of the fellowship right now. But we will likely have a subcommittee of our nonprofit that will manage applications and selection. And all of these, our board and all of the subcommittees would be non-paid positions. So these would not be driving up the costs and things like that. So, but we will have those experts in place who want to be involved with the fund, that would volunteer their time to ensure that we're meeting the compliance standards for 501c3 nonprofits in the United States. We have compliance, we have compliance officers already. So, we'll be doing that very much so by the book, but we just don't know how much we're able to offer at this time. So it's hard for us to come up with the exact details of how the fellowship will work out.
Understood. And can you talk a little bit about like who's kind of managing everything behind the scenes? You mentioned kind of the board of the nonprofit. Some people might just not be so familiar with how nonprofits work in the US and how there's a level of transparency with kind of allocating funds as well.
Sure. So, of course, I am the founder and director of the Charlotte Chess Center, and the Charlotte Chess Center Foundation, which is where, the Memorial Fund, the Naroditsky Memorial Fund will be housed, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization in the United States. And we have a board of directors. I am on the board as the executive director, a non-paid, none of the board positions are paid. So Dr. Walter High is on the board. Tom Kabasakalian, who is our treasurer, is also on the board. And Alan Naroditsky, who is Daniel's brother, had accepted a board position before we announced this initiative publicly, so that he could provide oversight on how things are being done in Danya's name. And so those are the 4 board positions as they are right now. None of those board positions were contingent upon arrangements such as, hey, if I give you this amount of money, can I sit on the board and influence decisions? That's not how that worked out. So it's a very committed volunteer board with no strings attached, where we're kind of the base layer, But as this evolves, we definitely see having a subcommittee of finance, of those finance professionals who will help us manage the endowment fund to make sure that we are managing that properly, and that it lasts well into the future. And I'm sure we will have compliance officers as well, just to make sure that everything is being done transparently. A question that a lot of people have, and what the reality is, I had it myself, which is, how do I ensure that because I'm on the Charlotte Chess Center side and on the foundation side, how do I ensure that I do not get into any crossover or hot water here? And in fact, there are rules and regulations with nonprofits that would not allow me to benefit the for-profit side in any direct way. And if there was ever any conflict of interest between the foundation side and the nonprofit side, or the foundation side and the Charlotte Chess Center for-profit side, I would not even be able to participate in voting on whatever those provisions were. So there are rules in place that 501c3s have to abide by, including very strict accounting and reporting. So that part is going to be transparent. It was a question I had for myself too, because I said the last thing I want here is for this to be perceived as something that is benefiting me specifically, because that is not the intention here. And so I just was the most natural person to unite the chess community. I have the acumen to put this type of thing together, the off the board chess skills that would allow me to put something like this together and rally the chess community behind the scenes, like people like yourself who can help spread the word and contribute to its awareness. But I have no interest in profiting from this at all. This is not a business for me, and this is not a career for me. So.
And I think you have the track record to prove it too. Maybe a lot of people who maybe just watch chess content casually online don't realize like how much good you've already done in Charlotte, and how kind of honest and kind of professional you are in approaching these sort of things. So I think it's helpful to kind of raise awareness in that regard and continue to be transparent. And I think the community really appreciates that too.
Yeah, so. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So there is one question in chat, which I think you already kind of talked about, like avoiding conflict of interest, but there is a question to ensure that if there's someone who's already paying to be a student at the Charlotte Chess Center, how do you ensure that they're not benefiting from this fellowship, that there's no kind of conflict of interest in that regard?
Yeah, I think that comes down to removing any Charlotte Chess Center employees like myself from the selection process of those fellowship recipients, and also having exact requirements for the fellowship, because it is possible that a Charlotte Chess Center student could qualify for this fellowship, but the selection committee for who is going to get the fellowship money would not involve any employees of the Charlotte Chess Center and anybody within arm's reach of the Charlotte Chess Center. And that's kind of the standard that nonprofit components of for-profit companies have to abide by to make sure that there's no conflict of interest. So more than likely, what we will do is reach out to esteemed members of the community who want to volunteer their time, that represent different geographic regions, that can sit on this selection committee to ensure that kind of fair and level playing field, while of course following the guidelines for the fellowship specifically, because those will have to be outlined explicitly to make sure that we're able to follow a system for selection.
Yeah, really appreciate you clarifying that. And yeah, hopefully that makes sense for the audience who's not like in the weeds of all the specifics. I was wondering if you could talk about kind of the fundraising so far, and the kind of the reasoning behind the kind of lofty goal of $4 million, and kind of the progress of the fundraising campaign, and where we're at right now.
Yeah, happy to kind of talk through why we set the goal, where we set the goal. It's an idealistic goal, of course. We hope that we can achieve it, but we're not sure about it. So we set the goal at $4 million, and we, as the Charlotte Chess Center, and as Danya's former chess club and, someone who we feel like really helped our chess community out by just simply living here and bringing attention to our city. We contributed to the fund to seed it initially, just to show how committed we are to the actual project. The lofty goal of $4 million, which might seem jarring to people, is because of its endowment nature. So basically something that is supposed to last for a very long time versus something that may only last 2 to 5 years or something like that. And as a person in chess, just in my short chess playing life of approximately 15 years, I've seen really amazing tournaments come and go because they lose, really amazing initiatives, I should say, come and go because they lose their backing or they lose their support. And because of our desire for Danya's legacy to live on forever, and to be able to conduct events that we believe represent his contributions to the chess community. So not small local club level events, which of course we could do, but we don't find those representative of the impact that he had on the chess community as a whole. So when we say $4 million, you kind of think, oh my gosh, like $4 million, that's incredible. You could spend $500,000 for 8 years and put on this great stuff. We could do that, but after 8 years, it would be gone. And after having consulted with advisors on this particular thing, a safe return on an endowment is a nonprofit standard is typically between 3.5% and 5% if you're being conservative. And of course, 3.5% and 5%, 5% would be a little bit more toward moderate conservative, and 3.5% would be pretty conservative in terms of return on an endowment. So we were using the 5% number as the fair number. And so at 4 million, we're talking about $200,000 a year going to the initiatives. And for the sake of this discussion, let's just divide that 50-50 between each initiative. So $100,000 goes into the Blitz and Rapid Memorial, and $100,000 goes into the fellowship. We really believe that that type of investment back into the chess community every year could have long-term implications on the chess community as a whole. And that was the number that we sought to achieve for that particular reason. $100,000 a year, let's say, toward the fellowship could give 10 top American juniors $10,000 a year to pursue their goals, or 5 top American juniors $20,000 a year to pay for training, to pay for travel, to be able to play elite level events across the world to enhance their abilities. For the memorial event, that would go into, of course, accommodating players to show up to the event. And for his legacy, we want the best players in the world playing in this event. That wouldn't prevent amateurs from being able to play in the amateur section, and that wouldn't prevent non-elite players like 25 and 2600 rated GMs from participating in the event. We see the event as a very open event. It's just that we want this to be on the tournament schedule of the world of chess. For fans to say, hey, I'm really looking forward to following the Naroditsky Memorial Blitz and Rapid event where all these amazing players are playing. Hopefully that gives fans at home the entertainment and enjoyment of chess that they seek. And of course, the players that show up to play the event, just it being a quality event at a quality venue with good accommodations for the players and a good prize fund for the players. Because now at this present moment, there may be many players who would offer their time to come and participate in the event out of respect for Danya and out of honor and integrity. But again, we have to look past the first year, past the second year. What is that going to look like 5 years from now? What is that going to look like 10 years from now as top level chess changes and those players who once knew Danya personally may be retired from the game and now there's a new wave of players? How can we ensure the longevity of these initiatives? And that's why we're shooting for the 4 million number. If we don't make it there, we will still put on these initiatives, but they will just have a slightly less impact than they could have. And again, as somebody who's personally connected to Danya, I want the maximum impact for him. Anything that his name has on it, I want it to have maximum impact, right? As much as we can do. So whatever we ultimately raise, even if we fall short, falling short, the 4 million number is not a number where we have to reach it in order to conduct these initiatives. It is an ideal number that, if we reached, could change a part of the chess landscape indefinitely. And that's something that would assure his legacy lives on for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years. And that's our goal. We may not get there, but that's the goal.
Mm-hmm. There's a kind of comment slash maybe people have similar questions too from chat, is if and will donations stay open beyond the duration of the current fundraising campaign? Because if you go to the Give Butter link, it says that the campaign lasts another month and a week or two. So will people be able to donate beyond just the next month and well into the future?
The answer to that is yes. The reason that we have a deadline date is because in order for us to kickstart these initiatives, the original founding donors, that's what we're raising for now. It's like, hey, you are the group of people who originally seeded this to see that it becomes a reality. Those who wish to contribute at a later stage, we would welcome their contributions, and we would absolutely use them to further enhance the initiatives little by little as those come in at a later date. But we would love to get a Naroditsky Memorial Blitz and Rapid on the calendar for the year 2026. And we just can't keep that window open forever if we want to get a memorial event on the calendar for next year. Quite frankly, we're already cutting it close. Typically, we would plan these things out more than a year in advance. But obviously, we can't choose when these particular things happen. So to be an original founding donor, and one that will remain on, in history as the people who seeded this amazing project, that will end in the next 5.5 weeks. But if for whatever reason, contributing now is not possible, we will continue to welcome and greatly appreciate contributions toward the fund at later dates. It's just that we need to know what we can do and how we can plan for the year 2026. And that's why we have a deadline for the original founding contributions.
Got it. And there have been questions too about specific details regarding the tournament, about dates and if amateur players can play. And I know it's very, very early in the planning stage, but if you can just maybe talk about the planning process for a tournament like this, or it'd be different sections, or there'd be kind of reaching out to top players in the world to participate. So if you can maybe give as much detail as possible to the underlying planning.
So we have a keen interest in making this the community's event. So to answer the first question on whether everybody essentially would be able to participate, yes, that is our goal. So we will have amateur sections. We will have an elite section, because that is what is going to attract, make this event really a popular event, is try to get the world's best Blitz and Rapid players to attend the event. But yes, we see this as the community's event. We want community members to be a part of this. We want spectators to be a part of this, even those players who may be nervous about playing a tournament but still want to see this in action. We would love for them to show up to the event. We would love for amateurs to play in the amateur sections of the event. And of course, we want all titled players as well to be able to participate in the event, not just the world's elite top 10 players, because again, that would not represent where Danya would fit into this. Imagine if Danya came back for the event and he said, well, wait a second, I can't play in this? How is that possible? I can't play in my own event? We would never do that. We want this to be open to everybody. And we hope to also build an amazing fan experience around it so people can enjoy the joys of chess beyond a tournament format. So we hope to have side events and action similar, as Eric, you've been to some of our over the board events here in Charlotte where we've had you come in to engage fans, give lectures, to play them in Blitz. So we hope to build a festival-like experience around this incredible event. But of course, we're going to be targeting the top players to participate in the event, to give it that kind of credibility and notoriety that we believe Danya deserves. We very much see this as a large-scale event of hundreds of players from the community. I hope thousands of players will see. And as we discussed earlier, we know that Danya's fans live all over the world, and it's impossible for us to take this event to every city across the planet to make it close to everybody who loved him and followed him and were enriched by his content. But we hope that if we can make this event high level enough and something attractive enough that media would cover it, both in and out of chess, that a broadcast would be done so that people can follow along from home if they can't make it out to the event. So again, we see this as the community's event. Somebody has to drive it, somebody has to organize it and put it all together, but we want everybody to participate who wants to. That's our goal. That's our goal with that particular event. So yes, very much an open event, one that belongs to the community.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I would definitely make it a priority for myself to attend, just given all the community effort that's going into such an event, and the fact that I love Rapid and Blitz. And I was wondering, like, it's a very busy chess calendar coming up in 2026. Do you have any sense of when it would be, like summertime? Like, do you happen to know when you would try and finalize a date?
We don't have an exact date for the event. What we'll ultimately do when we know what type of event we're able to conduct is we will put out RFPs. Basically, those are requests for the use of space out to our hotel partners, ask for availability because we don't know what availability will be with such short notice. And we will try to pick the most ideal weekend where it doesn't conflict with major events on the FIDE calendar. And of course, in an effort to try to get as many participants as possible. So it's hard for me to know when those available weekends are going to be. I know there will be some, but at this stage, it's hard for us to plan that far in advance. Once we know where we end up with our fundraising efforts, and we will plan those dates well into the future, because that's what we would have to do typically for events this size with our partners here in Charlotte, to make sure that we have the space and venue and that people can mark their calendars and arrange their travel and things around participating. The first year event is going to be the one where we just don't know where it's going to fall on the calendar yet, but in years thereafter, we will have them on the calendar well in advance.
That's great. There's a question that was emailed to me by Cass, who is asking how can everyone get involved to achieve the goals of the Memorial Fund beyond the fundraiser itself? And would there be any potential volunteer opportunities for the event, for example?
Absolutely. So number one, the thing that people can help with the most beyond contributing themselves is helping spread the word. And for those who can contribute, asking for even a small contribution, like a cup of coffee style contribution, like $5, $10 is fine. So that's just raising awareness of it for those who may want to participate is kind of the first step. The volunteer opportunities, I am sure we will be asking for volunteers at such a large scale event, because of course we will need some technical staff that actually have very specific technical skills, like maybe arbiter staff or DGT staff or broadcast staff, but there may be people out there that have that expertise who would be willing to volunteer their time. So at some point, once we know when the event is and what specific things we are looking for from volunteers that may have particular skill sets, we will publish those. But yeah, we see this as the community's event. We want the community to be able to participate in it as they can. So absolutely. And of course, as a nonprofit, we are able to accept volunteers. So it's a perfect scenario. The less we have to spend on staffing, the more we put into the actual event and itself. So Absolutely, we will welcome volunteers once we have a date and the exact tasks and skill set that we're looking for the tournament.
Mm-hmm. I have one more question just about behind the scenes of like everyone involved kind of putting together and organizing the tournament, because you mentioned committee kind of designating funds for the fellowship. I assume that will be separate to kind of the organizing committee behind the tournament. How much are you directly involved versus others who are maybe part of the Charlotte Chess Center Foundation?
So one of the reasons why our involvement as the Charlotte Chess Center, let's say the company side, the for-profit side, is useful is we, as a for-profit company, we can assist the nonprofit. It just can't be reciprocal. So nothing that the nonprofit does can in any way directly benefit like the Charlotte Chess Center. But the Charlotte Chess Center can benefit the nonprofit. So as you might imagine, we're a staff of 55 employees at the Charlotte Chess Center, many of whom are full-time salaried employees. We will treat this event as a CCC event in a sense that our salaried employees will work the event at no cost to the nonprofit. As you know, we have the DGT boards and the chess clocks and equipment that we would use for the event. That will all be given to the memorial event at no cost. So one of the benefits of us, spearheading this is a lot of the costs that other organizers would have to absorb, the memorial event will not have to absorb. So the endowment returns can go primarily to the event itself, the accommodating the players, the cost of the venue and putting on the event. We hope to have a VIP dinner for those contributors, but also for the family, so that the family can come in every year and experience this event and see their son, their cousin, their nephew in a positive light year over year. So we would rather the funds go toward those things in the memorial event. And the nice thing about the fellowship aspect is that it doesn't have a lot of costs associated with it. So that's just volunteers who will devote time to the selection process, but there's not a lot of overhead. When you run a physical event, there are tons of overhead costs. The good news is we're able to subsidize on the for-profit side a lot of the costs that organizers would typically have. So that's just, and we have great hotel partners and convention partners in Charlotte where we know we can really reduce the costs that would not be true if we were doing it somewhere else. So we really want the most of the funds to go to the actual tournament itself. And we will do our best to make sure that we can limit the amount of staffing and miscellaneous costs.
Okay, I appreciate you giving a lot more detail around that. There is a question from YouTube chat, because we were on the topic of volunteering and kind of on ways people can get involved and contribute. And Danya had a very large audience abroad and internationally, reaching people from all over the world. So the question was basically asking, are there other ways to get involved and to support, maybe beyond just donating?
Yeah, I mean, if you're living abroad, I would say that the way you could support is by raising awareness of the Memorial Fund. So if you have already contributed or you cannot contribute, that's fine. Helping us raise awareness of that is, I think, the most that can be done at this present time. Again, the fellowship will not likely need a lot of volunteers because we will have a board that will manage the fellowship, and we will have a financial committee of within the nonprofit that will oversee how the money is being invested, how we are utilizing the funds. So if you're living abroad and you're far away and you can't be physically present at the event, I would say just help raise awareness of the of what it is that we're doing, and I think that's enough. It's we can all help in the ways that we can, and that's all we would ask in good faith.
Another question kind of relating to international viewers, but also maybe touching on just where people are donating from. Is there anything you can share about just the supporters of the campaign already? There's been large contributions, but a lot of smaller contributions too. I imagine it's globally, but I don't know how much information or stats you're able to share.
Well, I can tell you that it's definitely global. I don't have the analysis to say, hey, how much is from Europe, how much is from Asia, how much is from North America, and so on. But I can tell you that the contributions have certainly been from a global audience, and so we are delighted to see that the chess community at large is interested in contributing to this. I am fully aware that these events, given that the Blitz and Rapid Memorial will be physically held in the United States, in Charlotte, North Carolina, in the United States, and that the fellowship will impact primarily will impact junior players in the United States, I can see how those living abroad may say, well, wait a second, that seems very, let's say, US centric. And unfortunately, because of just finite resources, we don't have the ability to make an impact on a global level. If we could, I'm sure we would. We don't have a chance to make such an impact on a global level without multiplying the endowment target by 20x or 30x. So we are trying to be reasonable. We hope that those living abroad we hope that you can put it on your calendar and make it to the memorial event. Like, we would be delighted for you to attend. If you can't, we also hope that people like yourself, Eric, and others that are able to raise awareness of the event, cover the events, stream the games, create reels and vlogs from it. And we hope that our partners can help us raise awareness of the tournament so that those living abroad can experience the joy of it as well. So, but yes, this has been an international fundraising effort. We have received contributions from all over the world. I just don't know, without actually doing the analysis, which wouldn't take me long. I could follow up with you after the call and do a quick analysis there. It wouldn't be too difficult. But I know for a fact that it's global.
I think we've gone through most of the major topics that I came in today wanting to discuss. Are there any other major points you want to make?
I don't know what else to share other than that. I see this as the chess community's project. I so happen to be driving it, and we've already discussed the reasons for that. My connection to Danya as a personal friend and somebody who I would see physically every week, and somebody who I communicated with almost every day, and somebody who lived in 20 minutes away from me for 6 years. I don't want to make this about me. I haven't had a chance to breathe and even, take this all in myself. And I've been kind of on the front lines the whole time, from just the time prior to his death, the time of his death, of the discovery of his death, and after that. So I haven't had a chance to slow down, and I'm driven by my commitment to him, my commitment to the family, and my commitment to do something positive around his name. And so, as we already discussed, I do not have a keen interest in the path of vengeance, as much as I know that some of the listeners wish I did, or wish more of the chess community maybe did. I just don't see how that impacts the chess community long term in a positive way. And I believe that it is my position and the position of the family that we want Danya's name to be seen in a positive light, not one that was smeared by unfounded accusations and the robbing of his honor and his integrity. We don't want him to be remembered that way. We want him to be remembered by the joy he gave the chess community. I can tell you, Eric, that he was one of the few live stream channels that I watched, because as a chess player, I just loved his battles with the world's top players, and I miss it. Every night I would tune into Twitch or wherever he was streaming to watch him. He's my friend, right? I could drive to his house, right? But I loved watching him spar against these incredible players in these online matches, and I miss that. And I know that, and that's just one element that, like, I was his friend, but I also missed the chess part too that he gave to the community. And I imagine that the community at large also misses that. And I imagine that they also will miss the educational content that so many people followed and enjoyed. And his commentary, I think he was often regarded as one of the best commentators in chess. And all of that is positive for the chess community, the ways that he contributed to the chess community in such a positive way. And so the memory I want to have of him, of his short life, is a positive one. And I hope I can convince the chess community to share my belief that the experiences that we had with Danya, like mine were obviously physical because we knew each other personally and we lived in the same city and often met with each other, but also those who had a relationship with him just as a person who they admired, a person that they liked to follow, that isn't forgotten, and that for the duration of my life and as long as I'm involved here, that we can see him in a positive light, in the same light that we saw him when he was still with us. So that's my only plea, and that the chess community unites behind this cause. It's a tragic thing. A man and my friend lost his life way too soon, and I hope that I can play a part in ensuring that his legacy lives on in a positive light, which is why I am not engaging in vendetta, essentially. And I know that I won't win everybody over on that, and I understand it. From the bottom of my heart, I understand it, that people want justice, but I think justice long term will be coming from the positive impact that he had, and that he will continue to have through these initiatives, and that's what I'm personally the most motivated by.
I really appreciate you saying all of this, and when you were talking about just watching and respecting Danya as a streamer, I can very much relate. He was one of my favorite streamers to watch. I would watch him as I would fall asleep, just watch him play high-level Blitz chess and lurk in his chat. And every so often he'd come up with one of these crazy stalemate tricks. And yeah, I also really appreciate just you being such a good friend to him and just doing so much for the chess community and beyond to move past such a tragedy and to honor his legacy and hopefully a very lasting and meaningful way. And I think there's always going to be more questions, but I know both of us are kind of on some time constraints. So if people have questions and they want to reach out, what's the best way to do so?
Please send them to our Charlotte's Chess Center Foundation email, which is contact@cltccf.org. And that's on the Give Butter page at the bottom, and it's also on our official website. So feel free to do that. We hope that the FAQs that we had here and the discussion that we have here will be watched later by those who couldn't make it today. So hopefully they're able to get a lot of the answers that they're looking for from this. We welcome transparency here. My plea is for the chess community to support what we're doing in the ways that they can, and we will carry out these initiatives one way or the other. It's just the extent of the impact that we can have. It will be determined by our efforts here in the short run, but we are committed to these initiatives and we will not back down from them. And we just hope that the chess community can support this.
Thank you, Peter. And yeah, big thanks to Kelly too. She's been very active in Twitch and YouTube chats, answering questions. some of which I didn't get to ask you, but she's been helping out. So eventually this whole talk interview will be a standalone YouTube video, and then hopefully people can get the information and become more aware and understand what these initiatives are about. And again, really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk. And yeah, I'll let you go because I know you have a busy weekend. But thanks again, and yeah, we'll be in touch.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for sharing your platform with me, and I greatly appreciate it.